Perfect. Well, thank you everybody for joining. Really, it's a pleasure. Appreciate you having me. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about the venture capital perspective on oral health technology investing, as well as a couple of niche pockets within it, inclusive of both how diversity, equity, and inclusion are portrayed within oral health tech, as well as a little bit of a zoom in on the orthodontic sector and its innovation, because that's a very, very hot space. So Revere Partners is the first and only independent venture capital fund for oral health. It is global in its founding. It has two general partners, myself, and I'll tell you a little bit about me. And Dave is our chief financial officer, so that we as founders of a fund come to the table with a lot of background or experience, and that's fairly typical of something you should look for, in an investment coming into any form of technology in the dental sector. The fact that they have a dental background, the fact that perhaps there's a clinician involved. So I'm a clinician. Dave is a CFO of dental startups. Bring a lot of background to the table, and this is generally how we help startups, by leveraging our backgrounds. In general, the oral health sector has a lot of innovation. There are many cutting edge innovations consistently founded in each country. In the US, if you look at it by NCAIS codes of new companies that are founded in oral health, or by the US Patent and Trademark Office and the number of new technologies that are founded in oral health, no matter how you look at it, there's a lot of new technology. It's often hindered by less than ideal capital flow, and we wanted to stop that hindrance. We wanted to open up the floodgates to innovate in this space, and our way of doing it is by providing a funding source. A particular fund getting involved in your startup, there are a number of problems that we saw within the market. Investors, they're very clustered, as you may realize when you talk to them. They're in real estate, they're in the stock market, they maybe even in just tech, but they never hear of oral tech, right? The industry itself, less than ideal capital flow, as I mentioned before. Startups, COVID-19 led to many startups dying out. It also led to several startups thriving in this new environment. It changed the dynamics. And patients and practices are often very focused on their own things, right? Providers have a very rigid workflow. Patients know what the consumer demands are and how they're met in other verticals, and there's a big gap in between. So our solution was to form one, sort of centralized platform where uh, investors could invest in a quote unquote safe or educated space into startups, right? So that's something to look for. Is the platform, is the entity, the fund, the whether it be private equity or venture capital, is it states there's about 180 to 200 billion dollars spent annually on dental health alone. That doesn't count the products or services around it. That's about 3.7 to 4% of the total healthcare spend, so a small slice of the pie, but not too small. Insurance in the United States doesn't really work well for dental. The cost of one procedure, as some of the clinicians you'll hear on the rest of the talk can definitely clearly attest to, way outweigh the coverage that any dental policy is going to provide. You often have to dip into the medical policies, and there's often incomplete coverage there as well. Data indicates over 600 real companies and their transactions. We asked ourselves a few key questions. The first one was, so gleaning from that, the next question is really, if you had a dollar to put on some dental investment, where should you put it? Should it be on dental VC? Should it be on public dental equities like Henry Schein, Colgate? Should it be in private equities practice consolidation model, or its late stage product acquisition model, or maybe even in the single practice? And if you look at the risk adjusted chart on the lower right, what you'll see is private equity is a solid investment, but there's 80 firms in it, right? If you look at dental VC, there's nobody in it, and it still outperforms private equity. So activity in the space, there's no shortage of that. It feels like there's another transaction every couple of weeks, and so that's exactly what we see. There's acquisitions, there's investment rounds. There's a lot of places to invest in oral care. Our fund structure is unique, and this is important to both the investor side as well as to the startup side, in terms of how should they expect their capital will be deployed, or to the company, how do they expect their overall um, their check size to be, or the time frame for it. So we partnered with AngelList to co-create this rolling fund, which for investors works as a subscription service for investing. Our back end allows it to do all the valuation, legal, tax, compliance reporting in an automated fashion, which means that our team is more focused on the deal flow and diligence, and that really helps to the startup, right? The top chart is showing you the average return multiple. The bottom chart is the average time it takes to get to a return. The green bars are showing you companies that have had a second investment. The orange bars are those that have been either IPO'd or acquired. So the TLDR here is that it takes about 4.8 years to get to about a 5.2x. That's on average in dental startups. That's about a 33 to 35% IRR, internal rate of return. And our team does it in about 4.1 years. Down in the pie charts below are by stage. So you'll see on the right side the pre-seed stage, the Series A stage, and the seed stage, all male dominated in the darker color. And then similarly in different, as I mentioned, different round sizes, you see the males are asking for more. And then in the valuations, again, the males are asking for higher valuation. So people in a fund are just as important as anybody else, and those are the people that are going to ultimately be involved in your startup. So we have 5 venture partners, some big names from across the dental sector, as well as people at the partner and team level. Eric, you'll hear from later today. And then on top of that, as I mentioned, I would focus a little bit on orthodontics, because that's a very hot space in dentistry right now. We have, for example, an orthodontic team, and on the orthodontic team are several of the biggest key opinion leaders within ortho. So a couple of startups that highlight both, the dental performance as a startup overall, that highlight the orthodontic sector and highlight this issue of disparity, or even, we'll call it here female-founded companies. Are 2 spotlights. Okay, so one is on Simplify. So this is a company that was raising a $27 million Series A, and was able to to get a pretty high valuation based on the fact that their 24/7 live chat, direct scheduling, their payment service really led them into the RCM space. I mentioned orthodontics as well, and so I'll focus a little bit on some of the subsectors of orthodontics. So there's this edutech area, or areas platforms that bring orthodontics and general practitioner networks closer together. For example, Clark or OrthoBrain just raised a big round, or Two Front, which is a company Revere invested in. There are doctor-driven aligners, and I say doctor-driven. If you look at the trend, even Smile Direct Club, as well as Candid, many others closing down their direct-to-consumer businesses because the cost of acquiring a customer is just too high, and they're focused on really empowering the doctor, even now the general practitioner, with the ability to provide orthodontics and make it easier for them.
Jeremy, I'll ask you one. This is Dr. Cindy Rourke. I'm curious where you source most of your deals. I mean, you have a very large team, but what's the biggest catchment area for you in terms of sourcing deals?
Yeah, Cindy, great question. Deals have really come from a lot of different directions. One of them has certainly been the team, with a large team, so many of them with roles in the oral health space. We get a lot of word of mouth referrals. That's quite common. Many members of our team sit on boards or are advisors, or are investors themselves, and that's how they know some of these startups. Another way is through earned media. We've been fortunate enough to been featured in quite a few podcasts as well as articles, and that has helped to spread the word. We've done very little, but some paid media, and we have had some from that. In-person events and conferences, and being on the speaker circuit at those conferences have led several startups to us. So many different directions. We've done quite a few partnerships as well, from down as big as the government level in certain countries, down to different channel partners within those countries. So that has certainly helped. What Revere looks to do is it looks to make a first check that is less than or equal to about $500K. And then we help the company as a strategic investor for 6, 12, 18 months. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Really appreciate it.